Stepmom refused to help plan my wedding, insists on avoiding my mom at all costs, and now I'm stranded in their unresolved drama. My mom is one of those people who wears their emotions on their sleeves. She cries and laughs a lot. If she is angry, you know it. She is very expressive. She also had a really hard life. She had me when she was 19, and my biological dad abandoned her. She met my dad and they were together for 10 years and she had my sister with him. Because she has babies so young she had to raise us and didn't get a chance to go to college. She met my stepdad right after she left my dad and they have been together ever since. Because she isn't educated, she's never been able to get a good job and works funny hours at a thrift store. So, she has a funny schedule and never really has money. She'd give me money for the wedding, but she doesn't hardly have enough for her own bills. My stepdad is her soulmate, but he needs lots of attention and it has always been a conflict for her. She would cry a lot because she wanted to spend more time with us as kids, but couldn't because stepdad only had certain times off and she needed to make sure that he had the attention he needed too. I mean, she didn't even have time to cook us dinner at night, she'd take us out to eat instead, so there is no way she would have had the extra time to do some of the stuff my SM did. I know she tried really hard at being a mom and did her best, but life was just harder for her than it was for my SM. My SM came into my life when I was 10 and we have always gotten along well. She is basically the opposite of my mom. I don't think I have ever seen her cry more than 1 or 2 tears. She has never raised her voice and yelled at us. Growing up she was always the one that we went to when we needed things done. She is the one who would sign us up for all the things we wanted to do, and help with our homework, throw our birthday parties, call the doctors. She went to college before my stepbrother was born and so was given a good job as a project manager and always had money. My dad started his own business too when he married my SM, so they had way more money than my mom. They also owned their own house and so didn't have to pay rent like my mom did. But the courts didn't give my mom any child support at all to help. Anyway, my SM did more of the traditional mom stuff, like cooking dinner and making Halloween costumes, but she was always a little cold. She rarely said I love you. My real mom was the emotional support, but life was hard for her so she couldn't do the traditional mom stuff the same as my SM even though she wanted to. I love both my mom and stepmom and I'm happy they are both in my life. They both helped me to grow up in their own ways. Anyway, my SO and I are getting married in less than 7 months and I am planning my wedding. A couple of times I sent my SM some things asking for help, and each time she shrugged it off saying you should ask your mom. The last time texted her to ask what she thought the best flower shop in the town we are going to get married is and if she thinks that lilies would be good in the bridal bouquet. She never responded, which is really unlike her, so I stopped by her house on my way home from work and asked her again. This time she told me that I should plan my wedding with my mom. I pressed her on why she wouldn't help, and she said that she had promised herself a long time ago that once us kids were out of the house she would never have to deal with my mom again. And that she will be happy to financially contribute with my wedding, but would rather not get in any situation where she is going to have to deal with my mother. I never knew she even didn't like my mom. She never said anything growing up. If anything, she always was supportive of my relationship with my mom. When I had problems with her as a teen she would always tell me that your mother loves you. Or would say, I don't know your mom, I can't tell you why she does what she does. But, I know she loves you. I asked her why she doesn't like my mom, but she wouldn't answer. She said that her relationship with my mother should in no way affect my relationship with my mom and there is no need to spread past drama. But, that she has set a boundary and hopes I can respect that. I was so confused. I asked my mom about it, to see if she could tell me why my SM might have said that. My mom got so upset and started crying and getting angry. She was saying that my SM is trying to ruin my wedding because she has always tried to control our lives just because she wanted power. She said there was a reason that SM had thrown our birthday parties even though she had wanted to. I asked my mom to tell me what she was talking about, but she said it wasn't my concern. She then tried looking up my SM on Facebook to write her a letter, but SM had blocked her. SM had blocked her everywhere. It's been 4 days, and my mom is still so mad. I am a little concerned that my mom is going to use my wedding to talk to my SM about it. I don't really want the drama. I asked my SM to contact my mom to help calm her down but my SM just started laughing. I'm so frustrated. 1. I don't want this sort of drama. I don't know why now, after 14 years, my SM has to start acting this way. I don't understand why she won't just talk to my mom, or open up the channels. My mom is just an emotional person, she really does try her best as a mom though. 2. I really could use some help with planning my wedding. My mom would help, but, like I said, she doesn't really have time. My SM is way better at planning things and keeping organized. It's not like my SM would have to talk to my mom to help me plan it. It makes me feel like she doesn't actually care about me, that she would just cut me off. 3. I really want to know what happened between my SM and mom. I know they say it isn't my business but it sure feels like it is my business and their actions are affecting me. Update 1. I just reread what I had written, so much cringe. I did what many suggested and told my SM that I respected her boundaries and thanked her for always having supported me in my life. She seemed really touched. We had a good conversation and she admitted that she would like to help, but as you/her Gizko had guessed, she was sure that if my mom heard that she had helped with something that my mom would become critical of it and it would put me in an awkward spot. I told my mother that she needed to calm down and that even if SM didn't like her, they were adults and this is my day and I could really use some help making it special. Much to my surprise, she said she would love to help and had been waiting to plan a wedding her whole life. A little backstory: my mom and dad had married in a courthouse, with no ceremony. My mom and stepdad aren't actually married, he's just been around for so long we just call him stepdad. Well guys, turns out my mom is crazy. It started with her canceling the venue we had reserved. We wanted an outdoor wedding in a beautiful park near us, and trying to book a destination wedding in Hawaii. WTF? Luckily the refunded deposit didn't at all cover her desired location deposit, so she came and asked me to cover the rest. That was a huge blow up, but we got it sorted out. She had claimed that she wanted to surprise me with a dream wedding and that I deserved the best. I told her that an outdoor wedding with all of my friends that fit in my budget was my dream wedding. I still believed, at this point, she had been doing it to be kind. Boy, am I a sucker. Things slinked into Twilight Zone after that. She kept saying it was our wedding as in mine and her wedding. I wanted a cupcake bar, she tried to change the order to a cake. She picked up the wrong supplies for our centerpieces. She would argue with all the vendors. Every time she did something we had a massive fight, ending with her crying and hysterical saying I shouldn't be getting a wedding before she got her wedding. That my dad owed her a wedding. She'd apologize profusely the next day and say she knows she was acting crazy but that the wedding planning was just bringing up a lot of unresolved issues for her. She said she was going to counseling and getting her depression medication adjusted. I would feel bad and forgive her. The whole cycle would start again. After months of this, I thought we had finally reached an understanding that she could have a wedding, but she couldn't have my wedding. I was wrong. She bought a white sequin floor-length dress with a pillbox hat with veil to wear the ceremony. When she sent me the picture, I honestly just went numb. I know I had told her that I would respect her wishes, but I didn't know who else to talk to, so I brought the picture over to my dad and SM's house. I showed it to SM and then started bawling my eyes out. At first I thought my SM was crying with me. She wasn't. She was laughing so hard she could hardly breathe. She called my dad in and he started laughing so hard that he couldn't stand up straight anymore. Long story short, both my SM and dad ended up helping me manage my mom during the wedding. They taught me how to put her on an information diet, and require passwords at vendors. My dad ripped into her about it being her wedding. My SM had the great idea of telling mom that the white would match SM's dress and be good because it's popular for brides to now wear a dress in the wedding colors. My colors were teal and gold. My mom showed up in a teal dress, as did SM. Lol. My dad and SM ran interference for me with my mom all day on my wedding day. They said they were old pros at it and it was their wedding present to me. It turned out to be a beautiful day, and I didn't hear about any of the drama until after the day. All in all, it was an eye-opening experience. I always knew my mom was emotional, I just hadn't realized how much she also manipulates things. I became a lot closer to my dad and SM and am actually pretty low contact with my mother now. It has made me really reevaluate my childhood and I feel like I have grown a lot. Thank you Reddit for being the first to start opening my eyes. Update 2. I wasn't going to post again, but apparently my life is a never-ending series of so that's what that was. The wedding glow wore off, we did our little mini moon a few hours away, came back, and I was ready for peace and boring. I really tried to do LC with my mom without turning it into an event. No big speech, just shorter replies, fewer details, I'll let you know on loop. She took it how you'd expect, 3 days of I'm so proud of you, then 4 paragraphs about how everyone always abandons her, then a meme about daughters being their mother's best friend, then a selfie of her, crying, then call me now. I kept it steady and boring. 2 weeks after the wedding my aunt sent me a link to a private Facebook group called Real Wedding for Mom's Name, helped me finally get my day. She had invited half my extended family and 3 of my old teachers. The banner was a photo of me and my husband, except she'd photoshopped her face where mine was and put a crown on it. I wish I were kidding. The About section said after years of being denied, I deserve what was stolen from me, and then a GoFundMe link with a goal of $25,000. I took a breath, texted her take this down, and she said, you trying to starve me of joy is evil. My dad called her and it disappeared within the hour. She sent me a single text, people just wanted to bless me and you ruined it. I muted her for a week. This is the part where I finally got my answer about my SM's boundary. It didn't come all at once and it didn't come like a big reveal. My dad and SM asked us over for dinner, just normal pasta and garlic bread and my dad trying to make the dog sit in a chair like a person. At the end of the night my SM said, I know you were curious. We've always avoided giving you our side because you were a kid. You're not a kid anymore. She brought out a plastic file box, the kind you put old taxes in. It had paper towels folded in it like it was precious. She put it on the table and said, we don't need to rehash everything. But I want you to understand that the boundary is not about you. In the box were printed emails and screenshots of voicemails from when I was in middle school. It was my mother. Some of it was just her being, her. Long messages at 1 a.m. about how my SM was trying to steal her family. But then there were ones to my SM's job email accusing her of sleeping with her boss and misusing company funds to throw parties for your stepchildren. There was a letter, on thrift store letterhead, that she had actually mailed to HR, describing made-up petty theft. There were 2 typed complaints to my dad's business license board, anonymous, but using phrases only my mom uses, like you people. There was a printout of a Yelp review calling my dad a predator because he stole a mother's children. My SM didn't shove it at me, she just let me flip through what I could stomach. She said there had been a police officer involved at one point when my mom showed up at her old office and screamed in the lobby, but they did not press charges because it would have dragged me and my sister into it as witnesses. She said she blocked my mother everywhere after that and only communicated through my dad's email about kid logistics. That was the promise to herself. No engagement, no fuel, no proximity. I felt like my stomach fell out, because I can so vividly remember my mom crying and telling me my SM had fired her from being a mom, and the file box was just so quiet and reasonable compared to the chaos I grew up inside of. I told my SM I was sorry. She said, "Don't be. You did nothing wrong. You were a kid in a story adults created." I cried in their driveway and then went home and cried again in the shower and slept like I'd been hit by a truck. Therapy was fun that week. The universe decided that was the perfect time to hand me a positive pregnancy test. I know, the timing. My husband did his little delighted panic dance and I immediately started making lists like my SM raised me. I told my dad and SM first, in person. My dad actually cried, which startled all of us, including him. My SM did the tiniest little gasp and then hugged me and said, "Okay. We're going to make this easy." I told my mom 2 weeks later because I needed to be far enough along to have an OB intake and the password situation set up. If you had told me 2 years ago that I would have a password for my uterus, I would have thought you were joking. We have one. It's ridiculous and my husband picked it. He shouted it once while he was brushing his teeth and almost choked. Worth it. I thought maybe my mom would surprise me, because hope is a dumb little engine that doesn't know when to quit, and for 36 hours she did. She sent me a very sweet text about how I'd be an amazing mother and my grandmother would be so happy, and I cried on my porch and forgave 6 things she didn't even know I was holding on to. On day 3 she posted a sonogram photo on her page with the caption "We're expecting," in a cursive font. She had taken the picture off my Mills private group chat where I had posted it. She then texted me saying she booked our maternity shoot and sent a link to a photographer with an inspo board of gauzy white lace robes. She had a Pinterest board called Our Nursery. I told her, calmly, that I would be picking my own photographer and I wanted to keep social media to a minimum and the nursery would be mine and my husband's decisions. She called me selfish. She said she never got to be a bride and she never got to have real babies because I had to raise myself and then support your father while he did nothing, sure, and now she wanted to finally experience it fully, with you. She also said she deserved to be in the delivery room because I did the hard part bringing you into this world. When I told her I was limiting the delivery room to my husband and a doula, she started fake coughing like she was about to choke, and said, "Fine. Then I won't show up at all." 10 minutes later she texted me asking what brand of pump I wanted because she could put it on Klarna. I didn't respond. The OB office called me a week after my first appointment and asked, in a very careful voice, if I had authorized a Janelle to be given access to my chart and to discuss my test results. They had already flagged my file to require the password because my SM had me send a signed note and we talked it through with the front desk. My mother had called pretending to be my sister, then she called pretending to be me and got flustered when they asked for the code word and said, "Oh, is it teal?" The nurse was very amused. I was not. This was the first time I felt that very specific mama bear anger warm up in a place I didn't know I had. I drove to my mother's apartment, sat on her couch, and said, "If you call my doctor again I will go no contact for a year." She cried, said she only wanted to make sure I was eating enough folate, she pronounced it like wallet, then pivoted into how I was turning the baby against her. I compromised on 2 things. I let her throw a small shower with just her friends and a couple of my cousins, in a church basement, and I promised her she could visit at the hospital after the baby was born, for 15 minutes, if things were calm and I felt up to it. My dad and SM offered to throw the other shower and said they'd coordinate with my mill so it didn't turn into an arms race. Mom's shower was a fever dream. I showed up and my own face was on the cake, but with my mom's hairstyle. The theme was sparkle, which meant glitter on every surface and a banner that said "Welcome Baby," my maiden name, because hyphens are tacky and complicated. She did a speech about legacy that included her cheating story but as if she had been rescued from a burning building. She had 2 diaper cakes, each 6 feet tall. The games were fine and the food was good and her friends were sweet, and then she did this reveal where she pulled a sheet off a table and there were hand-painted wooden letters spelling the baby name she had chosen, Rainlin. She announced, "I knew Op would want to honor me and my grandmother," and everyone clapped. I said, "We actually already have a name," and she walked into the kitchen like she needed to check on the chicken and didn't come out for 15 minutes. My SM, bless her, had slipped me a bag of pre-addressed thank you cards and a little notebook with what to write because she knows that my brain leaves my body when I'm trying to be polite and hold a boundary at the same time. I went home and slept for 12 hours. I had one really nice day with my mom in there. I want to say that. We met at a farmer's market and she was simple and human. We bought peaches and she told me a funny story about my great-grandmother and boiled laundry, and I think we both remembered how to like each other for a second. It lasted exactly until we got to my car and she saw the infant car seat and said, "My son-in-law bought the cheapest one, didn't he?" And I said, "It's perfectly safe," and she said, "God, you always settle," and there it was again. The actual crazy thing that happened before the baby came was my mom showing up at my SM's house with 3 giant boxes of hand-me-downs. She had gotten my old baby clothes out of storage and also, inexplicably, 7 pairs of toddler tap shoes. She texted me, "I'm at yours," and because we don't share an address anymore I had a tiny heart attack, and then she sent a photo of my SM's porch. My SM called me, calm as a lake, and said, "Your mom's here with boxes. Do you want them?" I said I did want some of my old books but not the boxes of our wedding-themed onesies she had in the top and not the crib she said my dad stole from her in 2005. My SM said, "Okay. I'm going to put the boxes on the porch and then I'll sit in the living room with a cup of tea and the dog and call the non-emergency line if she doesn't leave." And that is exactly what she did. My mother stood on the sidewalk, called my phone 9 times, called my husband twice, and then banged on the glass long enough that my SM opened the door and said, very cheerfully, "You're making the dog nervous." Stepdad showed up 10 minutes later looking like he had just sprinted, and he apologized to my SM 3 times and gently herded my mom toward the car. My dad called an hour later and said, "We've made a new rule, she does not come to our house unless invited." I said, "I thought that was already the rule," and he said, "We are moving it from implied to official." He sounded tired in a way I recognized from 11-year-old me. The baby came in a rush at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. My water broke in the most obnoxious way in our kitchen. My husband panicked so hard he put his shirt on inside out, and by the time we got to the hospital I was so focused I would have elbowed the Pope out of the way if he tried to talk to me. We had our code word and our no information note, and our doula was an angel who looked 25 but had the energy of someone's very competent aunt. The nurse at the desk asked for the password in a deadpan voice like she was checking ID at a bar, and I could have kissed her. We kept our phones in Do Not Disturb and my mill ran point for updates. My mother showed up anyway, of course she did, 30 minutes after my mill texted the side of the family that we were at the hospital. I found out later that she walked up to the desk and said, "I am the mother," and the nurse said, "Great. What's the password?" And my mother said, "Is this a joke?" And the nurse said, "Nope." My mom tried 2 guesses, both teal related, and then did a long sigh and said, "Can I just go to the bathroom?" And then tried to sneak down the hall. Security gently ushered her back to the waiting area. My mill texted my husband, "Your mother-in-law is currently describing me as the bad one, do you want me to intercept?" And he sent her a thumbs up emoji and then cried because he was about to be a dad. Labor itself was messy and loud and beautiful and mine. When it was over and the baby was on my chest and my husband was making that exact laugh cry that is just air, everything else got quiet. We had said if things felt calm I'd let my mom in for a short visit. 2 hours later, after I ate the best hospital grilled cheese that has ever existed, we let her in. She walked in like a hurricane that remembered how to whisper. She did the big eyes and the chest clutch and she said, "She looks just like me," which was hilarious because she looked exactly like a potato. And then my mom started to cry and said, "I am so proud of you," and for 2 minutes I believed her. Then she leaned over and whispered to the baby, "Grandma's going to take you home so mommy can rest," and I don't know what exactly showed on my face but the doula stood up like she had just seen lightning. I said, "No, you're not," and my mom did her sigh and said, "It was a joke," and then tried to take a selfie from a flattering angle that cut me out of frame. I asked the nurse to walk her out. The nurse did it like she was escorting a drunk aunt off a cruise ship. My mom texted me from the elevator, "Your stepmother wants to replace me so badly," and I turned my notifications off and slept for 3 hours. It has been 8 weeks. I am delirious in love with a person who thinks my face is the most interesting thing in the world. I make decisions now like I'm building a house instead of camping in a tent. My mother has been on an information diet so strict it's basically intermittent fasting. I send her a photo once a week and a general update that reads like a weather report. If she escalates, I do not respond. She sent a long message 2 weeks ago about how the hospitals have been taken over by stepmom types and how women like me are brainwashed by Pinterest. My stepdad actually called me and apologized for her, which is a new thing. He told me he's going to therapy. I told him I was glad. I have had 2 conversations with my SM since the birth where I realized that what I used to think was cold is just discipline. Self-control. A refusal to perform. I went to her house last week because the baby falls asleep like someone flicked a switch when she's on their couch. The couch is cursed, in a good way, and my SM handed me a bag with a notebook in it and said, "Here are the passwords, logins, pediatrician's card, extra ride-along mirror, a folder for medical paperwork." The last page is a list of phrases you can text your mom when you're too tired to come up with a neutral sentence. The list had stuff like "That doesn't work for us and thanks for the suggestion." I laughed so hard I snorted. She also told me, completely deadpan, that if my mom shows up at the pediatrician's office she will simply stand in front of the door and smile brightly and say, "Your lipstick is beautiful," until my mom goes home. I believe her. There's one more weird coda and then I'll leave you alone. Remember that file box? I told my dad I didn't want to see all of it. I still don't. But I asked if there was anything in there I should know, legally, in case my mom ever tries to pull something with my kid. He said there's a police report from 2013 when my mom called CPS on them anonymously and said they left my stepbrother home alone for 3 days. CPS came, did their checks, closed it immediately because my stepbrother was literally in the backyard with my dad at the time the call said he was alone, and the caseworker wrote caller appears to have personal relationship with family in the notes. My dad said, we chose not to tell you because we didn't want to make you feel like you were a pawn. My therapist and I talked for a long time about complicated grief, how you can grieve a parent you still talk to, how you can miss a version of them they never were. I am sitting in that. I don't know where this ends. I do know that my daughter will not grow up thinking that chaos is love. My mom texted me yesterday, are you still punishing me? And I wrote back, no. I'm parenting my child, and then I put my phone down and watched my baby discover her hand, and I swear to God it was the best television I've ever seen. Oh, and for the record, my mom showed up to the hospital the day we were discharged in a teal wrap dress. My SM showed up to help carry our stuff wearing the exact same shade of teal. Not planned. They both looked great, and my SM glanced at my mom and said, I guess teal is the color of the season, and my mom laughed, really laughed, and for one stupid little minute I thought maybe. Then she asked if we decided between Rainlin and Tila yet and my husband almost swallowed his own tongue. We named her something classic and simple and I'm not posting it here because I have finally learned, but trust me, it sounds good in teal. Lol. Update 3. I keep believing in the myth of the quiet chapter. I keep thinking, okay, the wedding is done, the baby is here. The dust will settle and we will just be normal people who argue about laundry and dishwasher loading. Then Tuesday happens. We started daycare. It took us 11 spreadsheets, 2 dual visits, 3 text threads with my SM about questions you don't know you should ask, she's terrifyingly good at these, and 1 near divorce, over whether to buy the fancy labels or write our kid's name with a Sharpie like pioneers. We found a small center with a director who could probably run a mid-sized country. I handed over the immunization record, the sleep sheet, the allergy form, the extra outfit and a little zip-up pouch because I've become that person, and we set up the pickup list with our names and numbers and 2 passwords because I have learned. It was boring in the most beautiful way for 9 whole days. On day 10 my phone lit up with the daycare's number in that particular tone that says this is not a photo of your baby snuggling a stuffed giraffe. The director's voice was polite in the way you get when you're balancing a crystal bowl on your head. She said, hi, just confirming, are you sending your mother to pick up? I could hear someone in the background saying, I am the grandmother. I said I was not, and she said, great, then we're all set here. And then, in the sweetest little lilt, she tried the teal words. My mother had shown up early with a reusable grocery bag and a story about how mom needs a nap and told the director, it's okay, we have a code. It's teal. When that didn't work she tried, teal flower? And then, Tila? And then did her long sigh and said, you people are treating me like a kidnapper, while standing in a room with pastel finger paintings and a tiny foam slide. The director put her on a bench in the lobby and offered her a bottle of water labeled Visitor, which is my new favorite work of art. I drove there so fast I think my guardian angel filed a complaint. I walked in, said the real password and the director smiled and said, we're fans of your stepmother, which is a sentence I'm going to unpack in therapy later. I took my baby and then sat in the lobby across from my mom like we were in a very small airport. I said, you are not on the list. She said, I am your mother. I said, and I am this child's mother. She started to cry, the slow ramp-up tears that mean we are headed to hurricane season, and I said, quietly, if you try this again, you won't meet your granddaughter until she's old enough to tell me who she wants to see. She did the choking cough thing, then asked me if I needed her to Venmo me $10 for the fancy labels because your husband is cheap. I sent an email that night, the most boring email I've ever written, to the daycare, ceasing my husband, with the pickup list and ID requirements and the note that my mother is not permitted on the premises without prior written consent. The director wrote back a paragraph that should be framed. It said, basically, got it. We've moved her from implied to official, and I laughed out loud because my dad had said those exact words to me about their house. We are a family of rules now. I slept like a person who has put a moat around her baby. That little episode jump-started a conversation my husband and I had been skirting. Guardianship, medical decisions, what happens if a grandparent makes a legal fuss? I told my SM and she did her tiniest gasp and said, okay. Let's make this easy. She gave me the name of a family attorney who knows our maze. We sat in a room with a plant trying its best and I signed papers naming guardians if something terrible happens, and power of attorney medical stuff if we're out of town and someone needs to take her to urgent care. I put my dad and SM together on one sheet for if we are unreachable in an emergency, call them. I felt, physically, my shoulders come down from my ears. My mom found out about the guardianship piece because my aunt told her, bless her boundaryless heart, and my mom sent me 17 texts about grandparents' rights. She also mailed me an envelope with a notice printed in Times New Roman and notarized by a woman named Sheena who I'm pretty sure works with her at the thrift store, stating that my mother claims standing as primary grandmother. I laughed so hard I nearly woke the baby, and then took it to the attorney, who rolled her eyes so hard we heard wind. She drafted a short, bland letter about harassment and trespassing and how our state's grandparent visitation statutes don't apply when both legal parents are married and fit. Added to the file box I didn't know we were building. In the middle of all this, my stepdad called me from the parking lot of a Home Depot. He said, "Don't freak out," which is the universal password for you are about to freak out. He said he bought a ring. He said he's been going to therapy and his therapist asked him point blank, "Do you want to be a husband?" And he said, "Yes," to her, and now he was standing under a banner that said summer mulch sale, feeling like he swallowed the sun. I said, "I am happy for you," and I meant it. He asked for my help figuring out how to do it without it turning into Coachella. I said, "That is above my pay grade," and then I called my dad and SM. My SM listened like she was listening to an incoming tornado report, then said, "He should do it at the lake. With sandwiches." That is exactly what happened. He took her to the lake where they picnic sometimes. He had a sub in a cooler and a ring in his sock drawer and he asked her. She cried, of course, and then she called me and my sister and said, "We're getting married. Finally. It's time for my joy." The words made me want to lie down, but I said, politely, that I was happy for them, and then I went into practical mode. I offered to help with childcare the day they went to the courthouse. She said, "Oh, baby, that's sweet, but this won't be a courthouse wedding. This will be a wedding. We're thinking teal." Of course, she sent me a Pinterest board called At Last, Our Day with photos of cascading teal chiffon and something called a Unity glitter pour. She wanted doves. She wanted a horse. She wanted a parade. I said, "We can attend a small ceremony and reception. We cannot plan a festival." She said, "You got to have your day," and I, with great restraint, said, "And you can have yours." My stepdad, crystal bowl on head, called me separately and said, "If you can help me get her to the courthouse, I'll buy you new tires." I told him to save his money. He did something smarter. He scheduled a courthouse date and then told her that the restaurant she loves, the one with the baked ZT that tastes like childhood, had a private room available that afternoon, and he invited 20 people. He told her she could have a big party later when it's not August and no one is sweating through their formal wear. My SM sent him a link to a white knee-length dress that is not bridal but is bridal enough, and then showed up at my mom's apartment on the day of with a garment bag and a bouquet she made out of grocery store flowers that somehow looked like a magazine. My mom tried to pivot into teal anyway. She wore teal heels. She put teal ribbons on the chairs at the restaurant. She teased me in the bathroom about how it's cute that you're jealous, and I looked at my face in the mirror and saw someone who wasn't 10 anymore. The ceremony was simple and human and not made of glitter. My stepdad cried again, which made my husband tear up, which made me elbow him gently. My mom did a speech that started about love and detoured into destiny and ended with a Martin Luther King quote that I am 90% sure she found on a coffee mug, but she didn't attack anyone. She held the baby and actually handed her back when the baby did the pre-cry face. We went home and I had a hope hangover. The next morning she sent a mass text to the family chat with a link to a GoFundMe called Help Us Celebrate Our Dream Reception with a photo of her in the teal heels holding the baby and a goal of $30,000. My dad texted me a screenshot of him donating $0 with the message sending thoughts and prayers, and I laughed until I saw my aunt had put in $100 and wrote finally. So we're doing this with our eyes open. A week later my aunt forwarded me a flyer for a naming ceremony at my mom's church featuring, and I quote, "Baby Rainlin." The flyer had a stock photo of a baby hand holding an adult finger and a teal border. The date was a Sunday 2 weeks away. I called my mom and said, "We are not doing that." She said I was blocking God. I said, "God can find her without a program." She said, "This is between me and the Lord." I said, "Not when my child's name is on a flyer." She said, "It's a placeholder." I said, "A placeholder cannot be a baby." She did it anyway. She showed up with a cake and teal napkins and an empty table where a baby might have lain if the baby's mother had lost her mind. The pastor, who I know and like, texted me a photo of the empty table and wrote, "I told her we don't dedicate children without parents." She left, mad at God. My grandma's best friend from choir called me and said, in a voice like molasses, "Honey, we love you," and I cried in my car at a red light for 6 minutes and then bought a frosted lemonade and took the long way home. You know how I said the daycare director was a country in heels? The pediatrician's office is the Senate. My mom found their number and tried the same trick she tried at the OB. The receptionist called me and said, "We have a grandmother using teal and synonyms. Confirm no access?" I said, "Confirm." A week later, somehow, my mother had a video on TikTok with her and the baby. In it, she's rocking my child in my living room singing a song about my little Rainlin, except I had never posted that video anywhere. It was from my private shared album. I called my husband and he said, "I didn't share that," and then he remembered that he had set up the TV to screen mirror from his phone and left the album open on his mom's TV and my mom had been over once when Mill babysat for 2 hours. I reported the video, my friends reported it, TikTok took it down, my mom put it back up with a black bar over the baby's eyes like we were under witness protection and the caption "Pray for daughters who forget blood." I blocked her from the album and my husband changed all his settings and Mill apologized in a way that made me hug her. My mom posted a video of herself crying in her car, saying estrangement and stolen grandmother, and my uncle commented, "This is why we don't get invited." to things, and then deleted it and called me to say, if you need me to throw a ham through her window to distract her, I will. We are appalling people and we are trying. In the middle of the social media circus, my SM gave me a small story that has been sitting quietly in my pocket like a warm stone. We were on the cursed couch, the baby fell asleep in 13 seconds, and my SM said, almost like it slipped out, I thought I was going to have another baby when you were 13. She said it plain. She said it didn't happen. She said she thought maybe that's why she was so determined to make everything neat and orderly. If she couldn't make life bend, she could make the calendar behave. It wasn't a Hallmark moment. It was context. I told her I used to read her not crying as not caring, and she said, the loudest person in the room is not the only one feeling things. We ate animal crackers and watched my daughter's chest go up and down and the dog snored like a tiny chainsaw. The day we took the baby to her 2-month shots, my mother stood outside the pediatrician's building in a teal wrap dress holding a stuffed giraffe the size of a carry-on. I don't know how she knew we were there. My mill had posted a photo of a knitting project on her Instagram with a coffee cup in the corner that had the pediatrician's name on it. My mother is Columbo with glitter. She didn't try to come in, she just waited by the entrance like a squirrel at a picnic table, and when we walked out she put on her soft voice and said, can Grandma carry her to the car? I said, no, thank you. She said, why are you punishing me? I said, I am parenting my child. She looked at my SM, who had come because she knows shots days are for backup, and my SM said, your lipstick is beautiful, so brightly the air felt warmer. My mother blinked, looked at her shoes, and then handed the giraffe to me like it was a treaty. We put the giraffe in the trunk. It's still there. I don't know what that means. Thanksgiving was the chessboard where all of this came to play. We decided, to save everyone and ourselves, that we would do a very small, early lunch at my dad and SM's, then go home and eat leftovers in pajamas. I told my mom we were doing quiet this year, and she said, so sad, because we're hosting our first Thanksgiving at 4. I said, we won't make it. She said, you always abandon me on holidays. I said, we spent last Thanksgiving together, and she said, that one didn't count because of the lighting. She showed up at our house at 3:48 with a raw turkey in a roasting pan and a teal tablecloth and said, this is a surprise. I was wearing sweatpants and the baby had a pattern of butternut squash on her onesie. My husband looked like he wanted to crawl into the heating vent. My dad must have a sixth sense because he and SM pulled into our driveway at 3:51 carrying a foil pan of stuffing and a bag of ice. My dad walked up the steps like he had been waiting his whole life for this mission. He said, we're not doing that, to my mom's face. She said, you can't tell me what to do, and he said, I am not. I am telling my daughter what not to endure. My SM took the baby and the stuffing and went into my kitchen like a general. She handed me a mug of water and said, sip. She told my husband to take the turkey and return it to my mother and say, we have plans, and then she said, to my mom, like it was a potluck sign-up, you can come in for a hug or you can take the turkey and go. Those are your options. My mom did the chest clutch and 2 steps forward, and then she took the turkey like it was a baby and walked it back to the car and slammed the trunk and drove away. We ate stuffing at the counter and watched a football game no one cared about, and my husband carved a rotisserie chicken we had in the fridge like it was the queen. It was perfect. Later that night my mom sent me a photo of a beautifully set table at her apartment with teal napkins and place cards that read me and husband, absent, and baby, stolen. I turned my phone over and fell asleep with my daughter's feet kicking my arm. The last little thing, my stepdad sent me a screenshot of his therapy homework. It said, list 3 boundaries you can hold with love. He wrote, no calls after 9. No showing up uninvited. If op says no, no negotiating. He said, I am trying. I told him that's all any of us can do. My mom texted me yesterday, are you still punishing me? And I wrote back, no. I'm making our life quiet. Then I put my phone down and watched my baby figure out how to roll to her side and get very mad about it. And I thought about how calm is something you build one boring, beautiful rule at a time. Oh, and because the universe loves a running joke, we went to pick up the baby's first little passport photo. We're going to visit my husband's grandmother in the spring, and guess what color the tiny background curtain at the pharmacy was? Teal. The photo is terrible. She looks like she's committed tax fraud. We framed it anyway. It matches everything we've survived. Lol.